Hi, and welcome to the Thankful Palette. My name is Tracy Herbner, and tonight we're going to be painting this cute little love painting just in time for Valentine's Day. I hope you enjoy it. All right, so let's just get set up here. All right, I am painting on a 10 by 10 canvas, as you're going to see shortly. Bear with me one second while I get the camera angle set up correct. All right. And pretty much what I did to start was, it's a 10 by 10 canvas. It is pre-gessoed, and I just drew some faint lines to give me my outline, because we're going to need 4 equal blocks. So I just did that already, just to save us some time. Just going to adjust this just a little bit, so bear with me for a second here so the lighting gets a little bit better here. Almost there. Oops. Just having a slight technical difficulty. Tonight I'm just using pretty much 5 basic colors. I'm going to start with a true red and go with a bright pink, as well as a solid pink and a pink blossom. And as you can see, I have it on my plates there. I'm just having a little issue here with the, there we go. Sorry about that. All right. All right, I think we're all set here. I apologize for the little tilting here. Okay. We should be good to go. All right. So what we're going to do here is we're going to start in this top corner here, and we are going to start painting it the bright red. We're going to want to do the sides, but right now I'm just worried about getting it on the top, and I'm not too worried about my lines or anything like that. I will adjust it as I need to. Don't be afraid to flip your work. I rotate my work a lot, just because I find that if I don't, then I end up wearing it, and I usually wear paint. So just get your sides, get your top, and then you could go over it and smooth it out. Alright, and then all I'm going to do is close to my line is I'm just going to take my paintbrush and clean it up a little bit. And then once you're happy with that, we're going to start the next block, which we're going to do in the light pink. I'm just going to grab a clean brush here. And there's no right or wrong color choices. These are just what I picked. Could do this probably with several other words as well. I just chose love because, you know, Valentine's Day is coming up, and I thought it would be something neat to have hanging out. And again, just this pink color seems to be thinner, and these are just inexpensive paints that I actually believe I got from Michaels. They're just the cheap stuff, so if I would spend a little bit more money on this particular color, it wouldn't be as runny. Just get your sides good, especially, you know, if you're going to see it from the angle, you want it to look finished unless you're going to frame the canvas. All right, and then we're going to clean out our brushes here. And for this brush, I'm only using, this is a flat brush, and I believe it's a 1 on it. I'll show it to you in 1 second. You could see it's pretty thick. You could probably get away with using something a little bit thicker. I don't know, I tend to go to this side to cover bigger areas. And then we're going to do this block, and this block is where the heart will go, and we're going to do this is what it's called, a pink. And you could see here, it's just a different shade of pink. Okay, and again, it gets a little bit more tricky when you get close to, when you're adding more colors, because you want to get close to that other color without smearing it in. But if you do, you do, because we're going to outline this, and in the end, it all turns out okay. Plus, it's homemade. We made it with love, so it'll have your thumbprint in it. Right. I think another great word that you could use for something like this would be hope. And you'll see later on when we finish this up, I used a scripture verse, 1 Corinthians 13:7, that love is always faithful, hopeful, never gives up, and endures always. So for me, this is just a great way for me to have scripture reminders around my house as well, and it looks pretty and cute. These also make a great gift. And it's just a good way, if you're a beginner painter, to learn some basic techniques as well. Again, we want to get those sides. Okay. And just go, I like to just keep my lines consistent, so at the end I just go up and down a couple of times to keep them going in all the same direction. But you got to be careful so you don't pull off paint as well. As you could see, some places I started to do that. Okay. And the last one we're going to use is a pink blossom, and this is really like a purplish pink, and it dries, to me it looks, I would say, like a magenta, but again, there's no right or wrong with the colors, it's just what you're comfortable with. Okay, and again, the last block is usually the trickiest because you have paint on two edges, and I'm just, if you could see the angle on my brush, I'm just up on the angle of the brush for right here. If you could see that, that just helps me keep a straight line somewhat, and then I could just pull the paint this way. As you could see, it puddles there a little bit when you do that. and we don't want it to do that. So, okay. I hope you're enjoying this video. I also have a free group where you could request to join, and you could share your finished pieces that you made from the video. So just go up top and you'll find the group. We'd love to have you and see some of your finished work. I also think this would be great to do with kids, and you could modify it as well. All right, so there we go. So now, for time's sake, we are going to have to hit this with the blow dryer. So bear with me 1 second while I blow it dry, so we don't wait here forever. I just have to be careful in a couple of areas it's still wet, but just for time's sake we don't want to wait. Also, if you weren't happy with the coverage, you could put another coat on, and for time's sake I won't tonight, but on the display piece I did do 2 coats, so just keep that in your mind. You may want to do that as well. Oops. All right, so the first block is going to be our L, and what I'm going to do is just take a piece of chalk and I'm going to freehand my letters and my designs. If you're uncomfortable with that, you could certainly print something out on the computer, you know, using your block size. If you did this on a bigger canvas, obviously you would need a bigger letter, or you know, they do sell different stencils and stuff, but I'm okay at least with some basic things at this point. And don't worry about the chalk marks, they will come off. And if you're not happy with the way it looks, again, it's just the chalk, and we'll adjust it with the paint, and we could also brush off the excess. Okay, so we are going to use the light pink for the L, and that was this color we're going to use in there. So let me just grab a brush here, and I think for this one I'm going to use this size, and my sizes, it is a flat brush, and you could see. If you have any questions, you could always put the questions in the comments, and I'd be glad to answer your questions even after this video is up. Okay. And you just want to keep it in proportion to the block. You don't want to make it too big or too small, or it'll get lost. Okay, and we may have to come back in a little bit when that sets up and put some more paint on it, but we're gonna just leave it go for right now and move on. I'll just clean that edge up a little bit. Oops. And it's all about how you put your brush, if it's on the edge, and the pressure, and the more you do this, the more you're going to get comfortable with that. Our next block is going to be the flower. And again, just using very faint chalk lines, and that's really just to give me some placement. And for the inside, we're going to use a bright pink, which is actually this color here, because I'm going to go over it, as you could see, as you saw in the beginning. And I'm going to paint the whole thing, including the middle, because we're kind of layering here. So, and if you could see that, I'm just starting on the tip of my brush, and I'm pushing down and twisting my brush back up. And I will try to show you that a little bit. So, starting on the tip, pushing up, swirling, and back up. And I'm just going to do that all the way around. Maybe you could see a little bit better from there. And again, don't worry if you're not filling in, because we could go back in. Again, start on the tip, squish down, twist, and up. Just going to fill in the center here, and don't worry about if it's not coming, if it's light, because like I said, we're going to shade it, so we'll fill all that in. Okay, so let's move on to the base of the heart, and again, just using the chalk just for my guidance. We are going to use red color. Actually, we're going to use we'll use the true red that we used for this block as well. Okay. And just basically color in the shape that you traced. And again, like I said, if you are uncomfortable in any way with just doing this freehand, you can certainly purchase a stencil. They have them all over the place. Michael's, Hobby Lobby, of course online, on Amazon. Etsy has tons of stencils. You could get stencils made to your liking on Etsy as well. Or if you're lucky enough to have a Cricut or one of the other machines, you could of course make your own, but I don't have that, so we're gonna do this freehand. And let's see here. Kind of think I want to round that out a little bit. Like so. All right. All right. You just play around till you're happy with the size and shape. Okay, and then the last one is the E, and I did a lowercase e on the first one, and I think I'm going to do an uppercase E on this one. and we'll see which one we like better, I guess. So and I did this one, the light pink, as well. So I'm just gonna get my brush here, just clean it out a little bit. I just have a cup of water sitting on the side here. All right, so go back to the light pink, and and by filling in the base coats on all of them, gives your other ones time to dry a little bit. And then if we have to, we'll use the blow dryer tonight. If we don't, then we could just go back in and finish up. You know, whether it's putting another coat on, or hitting them with the blow dryer to get them to dry. And again, just playing around with the size a little bit to see what I'm happy with, and doing that. And I apologize if you could hear my dogs barking. They're not usually quiet. Okay. We just got a little drop there, so I'm just going to take the wet very carefully, and I probably should just leave it alone and do it at the end, but there we go. Okay, so it looks like I am going to have to use the blow dryer quick here just to blow it dry again. And again, normally I would leave this dry and walk away for a little bit, but for time's sake, we're going to go ahead and dry it with the blow dryer. So let's see what we have to do now. We're going to have to put a little bit more paint, definitely in our L and in our E. And again, this is all a personal choice. If you like the background color coming through, by all means leave it. We are going to do a little bit of shading on this at the end as well, which is going to give it just a little bit of a different look. But I want it to be a little bit more filled in here. Okay, so I'm going to do that, and I'm going to just go right over to the E. And you'll see some of the marks around the E is actually the chalk, which we will take off at the end, but for now we're going to just leave it go till the paint's all dry. Okay. All right, so what we're going to do is work on the flower. And what I did on the flower was take some of the light color that I used on the L and the E, and I essentially just went over top of it and was not real concerned about how thick it was, just to give it like that whitewashed look. And I am using a smaller brush, so it's kind of an accent. And again, we're not going to worry about the center of the flower because we're going to go in and fill that in. We're just going to worry about the inside of the flowers. It's just going to give it some dimension. And like I said, don't be afraid to turn your work, because that is what makes it easy, and then you don't put your hand in your paint as well where it's wet. Oops. Okay, so, and you can see how I left the center out there. All right, so we're going to leave that go a little bit, and then we are going to need to use the blow dryer again. So let's just move this. Okay, so let's start working on some details. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to do some polka dots on the L, and I used a round brush, which I'm grabbing now to show you. Let me just grab this over here. Basically just looks like this. And I'm sure there's a technical name for it, and if you'd like to know, just leave me a comment and I'd be glad to answer the technical name for you. And what I'm going to do is just randomly put dots in the red, and I'm going to use the same color that we used for the back of the E, and you want to make sure that your brush is pretty well, you know, saturated, but then blot it off on your palette so it doesn't, you know, lose its effect. And I'm not worried about these being perfect circles. I'm just basically going down and pushing down, and like so. And I'm randomly doing them, and I don't want too many of them, so I'm just gonna stop right there. Okay, and then again, just leave that dry, and we're gonna move on to we're also going to do little dots in the E, and I do have another little brush, same type of brush, except it's smaller. And for this one, I'm going to use the red, and as you can see, we're kind of just tying all the colors from all the blocks. We're really only using, besides the black that we'll use at the end, we're only using, you could see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 colors. And you could probably get away with less. I just thought this was a nice contrast. So again, you just want to make sure to have some paint and just randomly going in the E. And I guess I'm happy with that. Yeah, maybe one more. And one more. Okay, so we're going to leave that dry, and now what we're going to do is, while those are drying, we're going to go into the heart, and I am going to use a black Sharpie, and you can use a liner brush with black paint, but my hand shakes a little bit, so I prefer to use the Sharpie, but again, the more practice you make, you could certainly do the liner. But basically all I'm going to do is outline the heart, and you'll see at the end, this is when the piece really comes together. Up until then, it kind of is a work in progress, and you think, oh, I don't know if I'm happy with this piece, but just stick with it, and at the end you'll see that it comes together and looks all finished and all nice. And again, just like that. And then I'm also, while I'm here, I'm going to very carefully go in between my blocks with the black Sharpie. Okay, and you want to make sure you go down on your sides as well. And I could see I stuck my finger there, so I'll have to touch that up later, but that's okay. So again, without putting your hand in the paint that's wet, I want to just do this all the way around. So now what we're also going to do is in the heart, we're going to write the word faith, hopeful, never gives up, and always endures. And like I said, these are just the words that I'm choosing to use. You could use no words, or of course you could use a different scripture as well. So just okay. And then I'm just going to turn my work. Okay. And here, I got to be careful because it's still wet here. And in between all of them, I'm just going to put a couple of dots, like so. All right, now I think what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to do the flower. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the center of the flower, and all I'm going to do is take a very thin brush, and this one, I guess I'm going to use this one, just wet it a little bit. And I'm going to use the red that we used at the beginning, and all I'm going to do is basically go and just do dots in a random pattern to make my center. And I'll need to pick up paint a couple of times. And if you're not happy with using a brush, you could always use the tip of the paintbrush. Okay, I'm happy with that. All right, and then what I'm also going to do on the flower is in the center, just take my black Sharpie or black liner with I should say black paint with the liner brush, and just put some little dashes there. And then I'm going to outline my flower. And I just chose black. You could use any color, but I chose to outline everything in black. I just think it makes it pop a little bit nicer. And you can see I'm not worried about getting perfect against the edges. I like the way it looks when it's not as perfect. Okay. Let's see. That E still looks pretty wet, so does the dots on the L. So I'm just going to hit it with the blow dryer, and you'll see we're using the blow dryer a lot. The blow dryer becomes your friend for sure. All right. what I'm going to do is I'm going to line the L, and what I'm going to use is, this is a technique that I call shading, and I'm going to use an angle brush, and you could see here that it's on an angle. You could do this with a flat brush and just put paint on one corner. I just find it easier to do on an angle brush. So what you want to do is make sure your brush is pretty wet, and just this very tip of this brush is what you're sticking into the paint. So we are going to use the Pink Blossom, which is the same color as this background. So I'm just going to dip the tip of it in there, so it's only on one corner. And basically all I'm going to do is go around like this, and you could see the effect that it gives it, because it's basically you're mixing water and paint. And I'm just going around the edges, and you could see what the effect that it's going to give us. And again, I'm just going to keep dipping in my water, patting it out, and then grabbing more paint only on the edge. Just go all the way around. Like that. And if you have any questions as you're watching this or doing this on your own, please feel free to hop in the comments and ask your questions. I don't mind answering them. That's what I'm here for. My goal is just to help you fall in love with painting as much as I love painting. Painting for me is a passion, and it's such a stress reliever for me. And after a tough day, I love to come home and paint and just create something beautiful and share it with others. And I love helping others realize that, hey, it's not that hard. If I could do it, anybody could do it. And you have this beautiful piece of artwork and to display on your home, around your house, give as gifts, just to spend some time with a couple of lady friends and, socialize. It's such a great thing to do. All right, so that's that. All right, so let's just go down here to the E, and what we're going to do is outline the E. And again, don't worry about those chalk lines. We're going to take them off at the end. Just outline the E to start. And let's just say you were doing this and you're like, oh my goodness, Tracy, this looks terrible. I don't like the way it looks. The beauty of using the canvas and the acrylic paint is that you can start all over again. You can paint over this and start all over again. So don't be afraid to just try. You're not going to know if you don't try. This one's wet, so we got to be careful. Okay. All right, so what we have to do now is go back up to the L, and we got to outline our things up here. Our dots that we made up here. All right. And then what we're going to do is we are going to outline our L. And you want to make sure before you're outlining that everything is dry, or you'll pull paint off. So and we need to go back down here and put our verse, and I do have the chalk right there so you could see where I'm going to put that in there. I'm just using a clean paintbrush, and if you go over it enough times, that comes off. And if that doesn't work, if you just take a very tiny little bit of water, and I mean very tiny, just wet your thing and go around, it comes off that way too. You can see. let's just go. It's 1 Corinthians 13:7. Okay. All right. So now all I'm going to do is just go back and take my chalk off here where you could see it a little bit. And it's still wet in a couple spots, but it's done pretty much. So I hope you enjoyed painting with me tonight. I'll show you the finished product here. Oops, I have you a little bit too close. Whoops. All right. There you have it. I hope you enjoyed this as much as I enjoyed painting with you. Good night and have a great day.